Hey there folks, and welcome back to Skullmonkeys. This time around, we're going to handle Sorehead. Sorehead's a pretty interesting level, as it actually makes a really good use of the glidey bird by being a vertical level where you drop down into a gigantic pit and pick up stuff. Now, just want to show off there that you really don't need to use the glidey bird in that first level except for picking up the swirly cue. The levels do get a little tougher as we go through them. For example, in this level, the fart clouds are kind of gone, which completely removes any sort of parallax scrolling that the level had. And they introduced the jetpack monkeys here. Now, anything that touches Clayman's feet will die, like that, but as I mentioned in the past, hitboxes in this game are not perfect, so it's not always certain whether or not Clayman will kill something by touching it with its feet. Most of the swirly cues are hidden on the left side of the level, so that's where I usually tend to go towards. Also, you can avoid the glidey birds if you really want to, but you cannot avoid the shrinking arrows. And in this level, the difficulty increases by replacing the jetpack guys with the helicopter peddler guys. They are actually a lot tougher to deal with because you can't jump on their heads. And obviously the birds are always an issue, because they can kill tiny Claymen. Not sure why there's a free hamster here, but whatever, I'll take it. But overall, it's a really nice, refreshing change of pace from the other levels. It's pretty short and sweet. In fact, we're just about done with it here. Honestly, the worst obstacles in these levels are those flame torches there, because their hitbox is actually kind of underneath to the sides, and if Clayman touches it from any side pretty much, he will die. This is a really cool bonus level here with some weird blood red cloud effects in the background, but because we don't have a shrinky thing, Clayman can kill all the birds without any sort of problems. And at the end here, we have all these birds to run on, so why not? And there we go, that is it for Sorehead. 0 secrets. And let's move straight to Shards. Now, Shards is a pretty great level. Might be one of my favorites in the game, not counting the 1970s. Mostly because it's really well done. The difficulty, I think, is perfect for a game like this. It's not super hard, but it's not super easy either. There's a lot of tricky jumps, a lot of using what you learned. And I skipped that hamster in the very beginning so that I could get onto those clock platforms and get the other hamster and the life. But mostly those shards there hanging off of those ledges and stuff, or in the middle of platforms, or in the middle of your plane, are deadly and will kill you. And possibly the only thing I don't like about the level is the fact that if Clayman touches one of those shards, he will die, but the hitbox isn't all too certain. So you're not 100% sure where those shards can hit you. I really like the background here. It's like you're in the inside of a geode or something. In general, there's just a lot of these helicopter egg Peter guys here. I really hate these type of jumps because I kind of feel they're a little unfair. The timing has to be perfect, and later on they mix it up a little bit more to make the jumps kind of more difficult. And we get another split here. We get the red ball and the peach ball. And we're going to do the red ball first, as it's the easier of the two. Look at that really nice effect on those shards, by the way. I kind of really like just the art in this level. There's not too many bottomless pits below you. You know, there's shards at the bottom, but there's no just pits like there were in the rest of the game. Just looks really nice. Also, I was fighting with the camera there to be able to see that platform that monkey was flying around, because it kind of dips into those shards, and that can kill you. But, so there's the peach ball and the red ball, and the red ball is the easier of the two. And what's interesting about shards, compared to any of the levels we've seen so far, is that the two paths are completely divergent. There's 2 levels in the peach ball, there's 2 levels in the red ball, and they never meet up in the middle. They both have their own exits, and that's it. So it's kind of cool. Just a little different. And almost missed that halo there. And we're back to these guys again. As I said before, I really don't like them, and the jump here requires you to move further, jump further than you usually would, so it's kind of tricky to miss that jump. To not miss that jump, I guess. And here's a pretty easy obstacle to avoid. You just need to jump when the clocks are up top. And more of these guys. They really like sticking them in the red ones. There are not as many of them in the peach ball. And here's a secret which you can very easily miss if you screw up the jump and just touch the universe enema, but don't jump high enough to trigger the secret counter, and then you miss a secret. It's really bad. This jump right here is really crappy because, as I said before, the hitboxes are not totally certain on the shards, so you can not all too sure where you can jump from. And as I mentioned earlier, momentum is sometimes conserved by Clayman and sometimes isn't, which makes jumping off these platforms interesting, as they're pretty fast moving, and sometimes Clayman will jump super high and sometimes he won't. And it'll get even more interesting as we see horizontal platforms. And here's a set of tricky jumps. And what's our reward for the set of tricky jumps? An even trickier jump, which I can almost never make without killing one of those monkeys. But good thing I had my halo. Anyway, before we see the secret level, let's go check out the peach levels. So as I mentioned before, peach levels are significantly harder than the red levels, and you'll see why soon enough. But first, how about we do another jump on one of these monkeys and get some goodies up here. All these clocks are for us just to get that universe enema, and there's a secret down here. There we go. But in general, as I mentioned earlier, I think the difficulty in these levels are perfect. It's pretty tricky, but it makes you feel good about beating it. It also doesn't feel unfair, like some levels do. There's nothing here that really feels like, oh, I can't take this. It's just, you know, I have to figure out the timing. And yet another monkey jump. Yep, you're kind of required to do these for this level, at least if you want that swirly cue, which you kind of do if you want to hit the bonus level. And there's another reason for collecting swirly cues, but I'll get into that later. And that was a waste of a halo there, wasn't it? So this level actually isn't too bad, but the next one is where the difficulty picks up a lot. Okay, and here's the last level of the Peach Ball. And we get these horizontal moving platforms, moving at a pretty alarming rate, and we get shards sticking out of the sides of those platforms. And those horizontal platforms are going to be the main theme of this whole level. And because of Clayman's conservation of momentum sometimes, possibly a bug, possibly not. By the way, this is really cool. I screwed up, but that's a pretty cool obstacle there. Because of Clayman's conservation of momentum sometimes, which may or may not be a bug, like that, he can move super fast while jumping off these things, or just move at regular speed. So you can kind of screw up your jumps really easily here, and you have to make a whole lot of them, and if the momentum thing screws you over in any one of those jumps, you're kind of dead. But once you get past those, you're pretty much sitting pretty here, because there's not too many more difficult obstacles in this level. And that is it for shards. Let's check out the bonus level. The bonus level is actually also a little different here, because of the multiple exits. Actually, we've seen this before in Elevated Structure of Terror, I believe. I forget which level it was exactly. But you can jump off these platforms here, and if your timing is good, you can avoid the clay balls as they're obstacles to get you out of the level and pick up all these goodies. And that's it. 2 out of 2 secrets, 13 out of 17 worlds complete. I will see you folks next time.